Hello, welcome to the Carle Illinois College of Medicine Fall Webinar Series. My name is Will Pluta. At Carle Illinois, I'm a teaching assistant professor and serve as director of curriculum. I'm an educational psychologist by training with expertise in student assessment and program evaluation. Today, I'm going to be describing some of the core features of our curriculum. So as an overview, in today's talk, I'm going to be covering what principles guided the development of the curriculum, how is the overall Carle Illinois curriculum organized, what does a typical week look like, how is engineering integrated into the curriculum, and what resources are available to students to support learning within the curriculum. So to get at these general overall principles driving the development of the curriculum, I want to start with the mission. At Carle Illinois College of Medicine, our mission is to educate exceptional physician innovators to deliver high-value, compassionate healthcare through transformative solutions developed at the intersection of engineering, science, and medicine. What do we mean by physician innovators? Well, we want students that go on to make an impact on health. That can be at the level of working closely with the patient and improving their health. It can be developing a device that changes the way that we treat patients. We can be making changes to systems. Our guiding our work is this idea that engineering is a strategy and a knowledge base that is not fully leveraged in medicine right now. The use of engineering and quantitative skills by physicians is a particularly promising way to promote innovation within healthcare. We want to fill that gap by developing physician innovators. So to be clear about what our goals are for developing medical students at Carle Illinois, we want to develop physicians first that have the knowledge and the skills to be incredibly capable, sought-after practitioners. By the end of 4 years at Carle Illinois, we want you to be a really, really well-prepared first-year resident. But within that context, we want you to think about, as you're learning to be a physician, how to apply advanced quantitative skills to understand medical problems. We want you to be thinking about solutions and beginning to develop solutions to medical problems that you've identified. And we want you to apply your advanced quantitative skills to evaluate interventions. So with that in mind, two of a range of design principles that we have been thinking about as we put the curriculum into place center on how engineering is integrated and practiced and developed by students. So first, we work to design opportunities for students to integrate their rapidly growing medical knowledge with existing engineering and quantitative skills. So we are working with you on your medical knowledge, but we want you to be integrating this existing engineering and quantitative skills that you bring to the table with that new medical knowledge. We also want to provide you with opportunities to practice and develop those engineering and quantitative skills within the context of medicine. So you come in with an existing knowledge base around engineering or quantitative skills or other similar technical backgrounds, and you're going to be thinking about, how do I use this to change healthcare? How do I use this knowledge to improve medicine? So getting into some of the details. So how is the Carle Illinois curriculum organized? So right here I have a schematic of the 4-year curriculum. Carle Illinois curriculum is a 4-year curriculum. It's organized into 3 main phases. Phase 1 is what would be in a traditional medical school, the basic science, classroom-oriented component of our curriculum. And we have a strong emphasis on engineering, and I'll get into some of the details in a few minutes. Phase 2 is the core clinical year, where you would be doing your major clerkships. And phase 3 is your opportunity to differentiate and integrate medical knowledge by taking electives in medical subspecialties that you're interested in, developing your skills within sub-internships, and taking advanced electives, as well as working on your capstone and data science projects. So let's look at phase one a little bit more closely. So phase one is 20 months long, 19 months if you count it from the beginning from day one until step one. It's organized around 14 integrated organ systems-based blocks. Those blocks are cardiovascular, respiratory, renal, neuroscience, musculoskeletal, digestion, nutrition and metabolism, endocrinology, genitourinary, women's health, obstetrics, hematology and oncology, and infection and immunity. These are organ systems blocks, which mean that the core basic science content that you need to know is integrated into these courses. So physiology, anatomy, pathology, pharmacology, biochemistry, microbiology, and then our specialty, engineering, as well as ethics and humanities, are woven into these courses. Other core features of phase one. First is, in addition, is early clinical exposure. Students spend time in the clinic within the first 10 days of getting to medical school. And that provides an incredibly rich context for understanding the basic science, understanding the clinical science, as well as applying and developing your engineering knowledge as it relates to healthcare. We also have opportunities for elective learning. So you can start to specialize a little bit. You can start to explore medical specialties that you're interested in. You can use time to engage in research or other scholarship that you're interested in across phase one. We have a period called Discovery Elective at the end of the first year that is 3 weeks long, and we have another time set aside for exploring your own interests at the very end of phase one after you've completed step one. Another core feature is in year two, we actually have you start the family medicine clerkship. And that spans from July of the second year until you have dedicated time for step one. And that experience provides a really rich clinical experience that allows you to contextualize step one knowledge and help you prepare for the boards, as well as for the rest of your clerkship periods. So what does a typical week look like? So the critical part to know about phase one is that it is a problem-based learning curriculum. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, you will start the day with a 2-hour session in small groups with a facilitator guiding you. The groups are 8 students long, and you'll be introduced to a case each week. That case serves as the hub for all of the activities that go on during phase one. So you meet the patient, you discuss their chief complaints, and you think through what all the different things are that you need to learn over that week in order to be prepared to come up with a plan and work to make this case, the patient representing the case, improve in health. There was a great session a couple weeks ago that explained the details of problem-based learning, and I highly recommend that you go back and look at that on YouTube and any other places where it's been posted. So after the problem-based learning activity, you'll notice that there's relatively few lectures. We have a variety of labs spread out across the year. So you'll have anatomy lab, you'll have specific engineering and data science labs, and then you'll have clinical simulation activities worked into the morning sessions. Another feature is weekly ethics and humanities sessions, and finally an engineering innovation talk. We call it internally a brown bag, where you get introduced to more cutting edge research and more cutting edge parts of medicine. In the afternoon, our courses are scheduled around clinical activity. So one course that you will have across phase one on a weekly basis is the clinical integration course, in which you will work with your own primary care mentor from week to week. This is a really great opportunity to start practicing your basic history and physical exam skills. A second 4-hour block in your afternoon is a course called Physical Diagnosis. This course is where you actually learn your basic history and physical skills. This course is also organized into groups of 8 with a physician facilitator who takes you through the basics of history and physical taking skills. Finally, our current assessment program centers on weekly quizzes that you have from Friday afternoon till Sunday to complete. Just to give you a sense, in the cardiovascular course that we just finished up, on a typical week, you have 6 hours of problem-based learning with your small group. You have, on average, 3 hours of lectures. The range over the course of this course in particular was between 2 and 5 hours of lectures. You have that 1 hour of ethics. You have 1 hour of brown bag, this innovation talk, and then we had about 1.8 hours, so 2 hours a week on average for anatomy lab over the course of the 6-week course. So let's emphasize this engineering part of the curriculum. This table here shows data for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of the curriculum. Right now I'm just going to talk about phase 1. So engineering is built into these PBL cases that you'll be introduced to. What our faculty facilitators are going to do is, while you're talking about the clinical aspects, they'll also encourage you to bring in your engineering knowledge. So they might, during the cardiovascular course, during a case, they say, well, what are the inputs and outputs that govern blood pressure? In the respiratory case, in the course, they might talk about how your body utilizes inhaled medications. In renal, they might ask about acid-base balance equations. So within our cases, we push the students to apply their engineering knowledge to the medicine. I think a critical part of this curriculum is that students all come in with some foundational knowledge of engineering or data science or some other technical quantitative skill. So everyone is generally coming in with the ability to engage in a more technical language around the cases. Our expectation isn't that you necessarily learn that here. Another component is the data science and engineering laboratory exercises. So we have students looking at EKG vectors and rock analysis of fluorescent signals within the cardiovascular course. In respiratory, we're doing labs around PFT flow volume loops. And in renal, there's some dialysis models that the students will be looking at. I mentioned that on Friday we have these innovation talks, the innovation brown bags, where we bring in physician innovators and other innovators, both from within University of Illinois as well as external, to speak with you and provide their insights on innovation in medicine. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's opportunities to do engineering electives during those 2 elective periods. So let's move on to phase 2. So phase 2 is 50 weeks long of instructional time. This is where you have your core clerkships. We have 10 weeks of internal medicine, 10 weeks of surgery, 5 weeks of obstetrics and gynecology, 5 weeks of pediatrics, 4 weeks of psychiatry, and 4 weeks of neurology. And a real strength of our curriculum is we've also set aside 10 to 12 weeks of elective time, where again, you have this opportunity to explore your interests, whether it's related to your career or to some other passion. So you may say, look, I'm very interested in sorting out whether I want to do work in this subspecialty. I want to get some early clinical exposure. This is an opportunity to do it. You might say, look, I've been in this family medicine and I have a great idea for a project. You know, I need these 10 weeks to move this project forward because I am just so ready to go. So that's a really exciting part of this curriculum. Another thing that happens during this phase 2 clerkship period is every Friday afternoon is set aside for engineering rounds and the idea project. Engineering rounds, you and your fellow students in your clerkship will go on rounds with an engineer and a physician, and you'll be talking about problems that you identify and ways that you might address them. So you'll come into the clinic and question why they're doing things, identify issues, and start working towards generating solutions. The idea course, the idea project, is this expectation that over each of the core clerkships, you come up with a problem that you want to take on and start to flesh out what your ideas are for solving that problem, and you receive guidance on that. Working towards the next phase, that will become the capstone project. Finally, a feature of phase 2 that is worth noting is that we have the family medicine student clinic. So one afternoon or evening per month, you'll be spending time in the family medicine student clinic with your own panel of patients. And this gives you a rich experience both in primary care as well as developing a longitudinal relationship with your patients. So again, to review, how is engineering integrated into the curriculum? So we have the engineering rounds where you have the opportunity to round with an engineer within the clinic. 2, we have engineering ground rounds, which again is another opportunity for you to hear talks on cutting edge research and cutting edge innovations in medicine. 3, we have the IDEA project, which by the way stands for Innovate, Design, and Engineering Analysis, where you can begin to start fleshing out your ideas for future projects. And then finally, we have the engineering elective opportunity where you can take time to explore engineering projects and move specific projects that you have in mind forward. So our final phase of the curriculum, phase 3, gives you an opportunity to begin to differentiate your skills. As you start to select specific specialties that you're in, you'll want to engage in elective time within those interests. So if you're interested in dermatology, you're going to want to do elective experiences in dermatology. If you're interested in emergency medicine, you're going to want to spend some time doing emergency medicine work. We have 4 weeks of required sub-internship to really hone your skills in medicine. And overall, we expect 20 weeks of clinical experience over the course of phase 3. We also expect you to complete a capstone project or general research project of some sort. The expectation is that you complete the capstone project over the course of this phase 3 period. In general, we hope that it builds on one of the idea projects, but you might have other ideas that you put forth. The other component to make note of is that we also expect you to engage in a data science project of some sort where you analyze a piece of data and draw some conclusions from that. Now, how you spend your time, if you come in with very strong quantitative skills, perhaps you have a statistical background, you can make your data science project your big project that you take away as your big deliverable at the end of page 3 and perhaps do a smaller capstone project. On the other hand, if you're a design person, you can work in the capstone project and work on iterative designs of whatever perhaps device that you're working on. We really don't want there to be any boundaries to moving forward with some kind of innovative idea. Some notes there, you can certainly do both of those projects in groups. We would hope that you would collaborate with people on campus. You might work with formally trained engineers on campus. You might want to work with the business school. So there's the whole resources of the university behind you in trying to move forward a great project. Finally, another key point to recognize is our boot camp, our career boot camp. So in the final 4 weeks of the curriculum, we have a course that will help prepare you for whatever your career path is going to be. So if you're going into surgery, you'll be practicing the core skills that you'll need as a day one intern to make sure that you are completely ready to go. Similarly, if you're going into a field in medicine, you'll be developing those skills. And if you've decided that you need to move your innovation forward and take time off, perhaps move into industry, that's okay too, and we'll develop a section of the boot camp so that you can refine your industry skills. To step back a little bit, I wanted to come back to this idea of how engineering is integrated in the curriculum. So thinking about the design process, all of the courses and clerkships are designed by a clinician, a basic scientist, and an engineer. So that's our core team for all of our courses. Second, I think perhaps your biggest asset of this school is that the student body will have an engineering background, quantitative skills, demonstrated track record as innovators, and everyone will be coming in speaking the same basic language of innovation and technology and moving healthcare forward. And I think that's the biggest opportunity that you have here, is working with like-minded students and moving projects forward together. My final question that I wanted to address is, what resources are available to Carle Illinois students to help develop your skills as an innovator? First, I've tried to emphasize this elective time across the curriculum. I think to be elective, to be innovative, you need this time to explore your ideas, and we've tried to set that apart, set time aside for you to do that relatively early in the curriculum. The capstone and data science projects that I mentioned have resources. Once you get your ideas relatively refined, there's a fairly sizable budget to help you move forward. And you know, any resource on campus, the team at Carle Illinois, the research team, the curricular affairs team will certainly push to help you get access to anything that's on the University of Illinois campus. We have a great sim center that is brand new, that's just really wonderful, has just about everything that you need to do sim as a medical student. We've invested in virtual reality packages where you can do anatomy to help develop your core medical knowledge. We really try to include you in the community of engineers on campus. We give you access to the engineering library and the engineering computer lab so that you have those resources available to you. The Maker Lab is another exciting part of our set of resources available to you. And then another resource available to students is our Deep Dive program, which has been recently dubbed the Pioneering Health Scholars Program. So again, I mentioned time. You have this idea that has just gotten you ready to go. You can step out of the curriculum and spend a year trying to develop those ideas, and that's just a really great opportunity for you. This slide here addresses some of the advising structure that I view as a resource to students. So first, students, we really think in terms of groups of 8 on this curriculum, and as you come in, you'll be organized in groups of 8 with your classmates, and that is as well as with 3 advisors, again, a physician, a clinician, a physician, a basic scientist, an engineer, to provide a steady advising structure and an initial group of peers to explore medical school with. In addition, within that pod, you'll have the senior students together as sort of a nice big learning community. We have an amazing set of advisors that will help guide you in your career, both from the engineering, innovation, science perspective, as well as from the clinical perspective. And they have a keen understanding and appreciation of our mission. We have an academic skills specialist who's ready to help you prepare for things like step 1 and can help develop a learning plan to make sure you're successful and meet your fullest potential. And so that you can perhaps carve out more time out of your busy day so that you can engage in research and engage in innovation. We expect a lot of you, so we also have a really exciting program for wellness, where on Wednesday we bring in a bunch of speakers and have activities aimed at developing you as a whole person and keeping track of your wellness and thinking about yourself. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this career preparation boot camp is, I think, a critical part of the curriculum, sort of aiming, setting your advising forward and helping you be successful after medical school. So again, in this talk, I've covered what are the principles guiding the development of the curriculum. So we have a clear mission set on developing physician innovators, with a focus on engineering and strong quantitative skills. 2, I've talked a little bit about how the Carle Illinois curriculum is organized. I've spent some time talking about what a typical week looks like. 4, I've covered how engineering is integrated into the curriculum. And finally, I've described some of the resources that are available to you in brief. So now I'll begin taking some questions. So the first question that I have in front of me right now is, can we do the data science project with outsiders? As I think very briefly mentioned, we don't want to have any barriers to being successful in moving your projects forward. So I think a reasonable proposal around working with outsiders would absolutely be allowable and considered. So that certainly would not be an issue. Okay. Any more questions? Oh, no, do you know how to pull up questions that aren't from Zoom? Oh, here they are. So let me skim these. So one question I have here is, will most of the clerkships be done at Carle Hospital? And the simple answer is yes, most of the clerkships will be done at Carle Hospital, but you will have opportunities to engage some of the other local hospitals. In phase 3 of the curriculum, you'll certainly want to go out and gain exposure to other hospitals as you develop your knowledge and begin to do addition electives. Another question is, are there dedicated classes to learn specific engineering skills, software, or is that something for us to learn on your own? There is not a specific standalone course within the curriculum for you to learn specific engineering skills or software. It really is aiming to be integrated within the curriculum. There is a significant number of labs that utilize MATLAB, and we certainly recognize that there's some variability in students' incoming knowledge of MATLAB, and we balance that. If you have not worked with MATLAB very much, you should be able to get up to speed quite quickly within the context of the classroom, as well as working with your peers. Are there opportunities to pursue a master's or a PhD? Yes. We will allow students to apply for the PhD program and work this into this curriculum. So yes, in terms of a master's program, we would count that as part of this idea of a deep dive, where again, if you want to go get a master's degree in, say, population health or a more engineering focused master's degree, you can build that into the MD program. So someone asked me to clarify what I meant by the boot camp not being residency focused. And what I mean by that is that you might decide that you have an incredible idea. You have a product that you want to take to market. You have a product that you want to go find some funding for and turn to really move forward. And you need some help in how do you navigate that. And you're going to take time away from you may decide, I don't even want to go to a residency program. That boot camp could be centered more on business skills or skills related to non-clinical, non-directly clinical careers. So again, what hospitals do we work with? Our main partner is Carle Hospital. That was one of the questions. And do we partner with any biotechnology healthcare companies? Yes, we have a number of companies that we are working with. I mentioned the elective time, so there's certainly that opportunity there to work with companies during elective time. We expect that students, as they move towards the Capstone project, may partner with biotechnology and healthcare companies to move their Capstone projects forward. So there are lots of opportunities to work with biotech and healthcare companies. There are some questions related to what kind of background the engineers that will be doing engineering rounds come from, and the answer to that is they will be coming from all the core engineering disciplines that we have on campus. So we are not focused on bioengineering or chemical engineering or electrical engineering. We do draw from the whole campus. Now, it is indeed the case that the bioengineers are particularly enthusiastic about the curriculum, so there are a lot of them around, but that's not our intention to focus on that group. And the level of those engineers are typically PhD trained academic engineers. Another question is related to access to the EHR database that we can use for quick data analysis, proof of concepts on our ideas. I did not mention this earlier in our talk, but we are currently, our first class just started in July. And it is our expectation that data will be available for analysis. We have not tapped into that yet, but it is our hope that specific projects will be able to utilize the EHR databases. So another question is related to how do you encourage students to bring innovation to life through startups? What help is provided in IP and commercialization, particularly with a busy med student schedule? So we have at the University of Illinois robust resources related to IP and navigating that, as well as commercialization. And I would encourage you to look at the university's website around intellectual property. very quickly, I can say that our very first brown bag talk was from the intellectual property group on campus, so that they were able to establish expectations around intellectual property for students, and to describe some of the specific resources available to students. But we're a big university, and we have most of the resources that you would expect from a big university. So here's a repost. How have students felt about integrated engineering in the curriculum? We are 3 months into the curriculum, and I think that they're generally appreciative of the engineering being built in to the curriculum. Certainly, there's things that we've gotten right on around some of the speakers, and some things are pitched a little bit too high, and some things are pitched a little bit too low. And you, as potential future students in the school, will benefit from their experiences as we refine things. But in general, they're incredibly appreciative of the opportunities that they've had so far in the phase 1 of the curriculum. Another question is, what went into your decision to have students take step 1 in February of their second year, as opposed to later, which I noticed is something that's starting to occur in other schools. So as this question indicates, it is a trend in medical education right now to move the step 1 board exam earlier up, move it earlier in the schedule. So we are generally consistent with the trend in medical education right now. We are not, our step 1 timing is not as early as it perhaps seems on our curriculum schematic, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, we start about a month or maybe even 5-6 weeks earlier than most medical schools there. So in your mental representation of where step 1 should go, you can sort of move that back on the time period. Second, we don't have quite as much time built in for a summer vacation between the first year and the second year. So again, you pick up another month of academic time to prepare for step 1. So we're not as accelerated as perhaps our schematic looks. But the general trend is towards moving step 1 up forward in the curriculum to allow you to move on with the clinical period, and it has not negatively impacted nationally student performance in a significant way, in fact, I think at all. Some schools have found that they've actually improved step 1 scores. Are there any opportunities to work in rural health clinics serving the Illinois community and beyond? Yes. So I mentioned in phase 1 that there is a course called Clinical Integration, and this is where you work with a primary care physician. A significant number of students go into clinics within a rural environment, and that opportunity is certainly there. I think there are also a number of student organizations that directly address the population of rural health issues. Another question we have is during the capstone design projects, will there be an opportunity to pilot our idea in a clinical setting within the healthcare system at Carle? Well, that's a tricky question to answer because it depends what your project is and what the regulatory requirements are. So in general, we would be completely supportive of that, but within the general patient safety guidelines that would be provided to you. So we would encourage encourage that, but moving those kind of projects forward, that often takes many years where you can move into the clinical environment for certain types of projects. So if it's feasible and it's evaluated by our curriculum and by the IRB and Carle's stakeholders, it certainly is possible, but certainly has to be a safe type of intervention and well developed with good evidence. Just depends on what your intervention is, but usually there's a lot of hoops to jump through, not just here, but any any hospital, since patient safety is so critical. A question that just came in is, are there any spaces within the curriculum to help students sharpen and practice their communication skills to better convey the importance of their work? Yes. So that idea course that I mentioned, where a core part of it is generating and refining your ideas, does have an aspect related to pitching your idea and developing it for a more commercial audience, or an audience that you would want to understand the importance of your work. Another good question is, as a new medical school with an ambitious curriculum, are students encouraged to provide feedback to continue shaping and improving the school? Yes. So right now with the current class, we are accepting significant amounts of feedback. We accept feedback every week, and we probably won't continue that because it's just a little too much feedback to process and act on. But the class that comes in next year will benefit from so much feedback from students as we refine things and iteratively improve the curriculum. As our standard process moving forward, each course will be evaluated through surveys, as well as a significant number of surveys for evaluating specific faculty members. So there is a lot of opportunity to provide feedback to the team and to help us shape the direction of the school. We also have a number of committees for the curriculum that students are sitting on right now and beginning to help us process and prioritize different pieces of feedback, as well as different and new ways that we want to go in the future. So certainly we would encourage you to be part of that. And then we also do regular town hall meetings to discuss how things are going and to, again, accept feedback. So there are more than enough opportunities for you to provide really good feedback. And we really do care about your feedback and move it forward. As I mentioned in my introduction, this is my area of expertise is program evaluation. So what types of topics are covered in the ethics humanities time slot in the curriculum? It is a core bioethics course to address the ethical and prepare you to address any of the ethical issues that you will face as a clinician, but it again has a special focus on some of the engineering, innovation, business, implementation, research type ethical issues that you might face around navigating research and innovation and thinking about those types of things. So there is a question regarding capstone support from the university. Is there support or an expectation for students to apply for grants? There's not an expectation that students apply for grants, but certainly you could do that if you wanted to. No one is going to stop you. In fact, we would support you in doing that. We would hope that you would develop relationships, and probably do expect you to develop relationships with the faculty on campus that may not be totally engaged in the day-to-day instruction of students to, assuming it's aligned with your capstone project ideas, to take advantage of the resources that they have and are able to share with you, and tap into those opportunities. So that's one thing that we would expect, is that you have the initiative to go and look at the university, because it is such a large place with so many amazing things available to you, that you take the initiative to help seek that out. Now, certainly we will guide you in that and shape that and say, oh, well, that's a great idea. This is a really wonderful resource. But did you think about this? And certainly your peers, I mentioned the pod advising structure, so senior students might be able to shape that. Senior students might leave behind history that helps students figure out what's the best way to move forward on capstone projects and data science projects and any other project that you might want to do. Would there be mentors to guide students through how to submit patents and the legal aspects after designing innovative devices? And yes, we have those resources on campus, and they are very, very happy to work with our students. Certainly some of our faculty, our engineering faculty in particular, have lots of experience in this area too. Some of our faculty have a number of startups and have been navigating this process of patents and legal aspects for years. Our dean, he has a number of patents. I wish I could give the number because I think it's quite impressive. But those people and the research faculty here have that experience, that expertise, and want to help you with that. So a question that came in is there a mentoring program for incoming medical students? And I assume this means around all aspects of medical school life, from the curricular medical side of becoming a physician to this engineering innovative part. And I mentioned this innovation pod component, and we call it innovation pods. We probably should just call it pods, because they do focus on the whole person, ranging from wellness to career advising to telling you, where the best Thai restaurant is in town, to helping you find good research mentors. That group, as I said, will include 8 students in your current class. So you have the very near peer mentoring and coaching. You have senior students. So if you're in the second class, you'll benefit from students that are 1 year more experience with you. We have our basic scientists, we have a clinician, and our engineer faculty pod mentors. And right now, as we're getting up to speed, University of Illinois Chicago currently has a regional school on campus that is winding down, that still has senior students, and those students are engaged in mentoring our current students too. So there are significant opportunities for mentoring, and it's basically what is the right venue for you for receiving good advice and good mentoring. Another question is, are the PBL groups of 8 that we were assigned at the beginning the same or stay throughout? The pods, this mentoring pod that I mentioned just now, that stays with you for the entire 4 years. So the mentoring pod does not change. For the problem-based learning, we do switch the groups every couple of blocks. So right now in phase 1, cardiovascular, respiratory, and renal is in a group that does not include just your pod. So students in the class get to know people outside of their pod. And also so that they have different exposure to different faculty facilitators. So the pods for mentoring stay the same. Our problem-based learning groups change every couple of courses. Has there been any feedback from traditional medical world outside of Carle? So I have been at Carle, Illinois for over a year now, but when the school was very first getting off the ground, there was lots of advisors from the medical world that contributed to putting together the plan for the school. So we've always had this external feedback from the medical community, generally cheering us on. I know that I learned about the school from a white paper that was disseminated or was snuck around from, I guess, different deans across the country. So I actually knew about the school from something my dean had given me, saying, hey, can you try to incorporate these engineering ideas into our very, well, not very, but relatively traditional curriculum. So there was a buzz about the school before I was even here within at least the medical education community. And we do get, we have a number of discussions with industry who are very interested in what we're doing, interested in our students. It'll be very interesting to see which direction our students go, if most go into patient care or if most go into industry or if there's a pretty even mix. I also have another question that we received is the intersection of humanities and spirituality with medicine and patient care. Is interdisciplinary collaboration with humanities possible? And the answer is yes. We certainly encourage, it is a core part of our curriculum. We do call our ethics thread the ethics and humanities thread. So we want that engagement there. Now, there's a careful balance there. We are a mission-driven school. I started with that mission around physician innovators and this emphasis on engineering and technology and data science as being how to move healthcare forward. And we are driven and shaped by that mission. So I think most of the faculty here have a strong appreciation for the humanities, spirituality, and the like. But when we make decisions, we're certainly guided by the mission of the school, and this technology focus is definitely a priority. So if that's your passion, this may not be the best place for you, but if you are able to balance some of our curriculum and our goals, as well as things like humanities and other activities, you'll be supported in that. U of I, so someone notes how U of I has a wonderful vet school. Is there any medical research integration projects between these schools? A significant number of our faculty in the basic sciences actually have joint appointments in the vet school. So at the faculty level, that is a core part of the curriculum. Actually, I think in 2 weeks, we have a interprofessional experience where we are having medical students working with the vet schools on some 3D modeling of the heart and, I guess, comparative medicine. That's really interesting. So that relationship with the vet school is definitely an important part of the school and an exciting part. Basically, I think everyone in the campus has really been welcomed into the College of Medicine, and we really try to promote those collaborations. So whether it's public health, I think someone had a question sort of similar along public health, the vet school, it's certainly not our intention. Our goal is to be as inclusive as possible while keeping in mind what our mission is. There are some admissions questions here that I will disclose that I am not the expert on admissions, so I'm going to skip over those. Is there a formal program plan for the class of 2023 to receive mentorship from the class of 2022? Yes, that's part of that pod program that I've been mentioning. Oh, there we go. Yes, and collaboration, and there are some questions here around collaborating with other people on campus. Absolutely. Obviously, in some cases, you may have to develop those relationships if you want to seek someone out, but we will be supportive of that and help you negotiate that if that becomes a challenge that you're facing, but I would not anticipate that. There's some technical questions that I want to be careful about. Are there any plans for a boot camp for incoming students, perhaps in the weeks leading up to year one, to learn, refresh key medical or engineering concepts, data science languages, so that we can hit the ground, computer science languages, so that we can hit the ground running? So I de-emphasized it because of time constraints and trying to think about what the level of complexity I should present the curriculum at. But if you look back at our schematic, we have a course that we actually start out with, and it's a bit of an anomaly in that it's different from the PBL, called Foundational Elements, and it's a 6-week course. And that is a course that generally aims to get people on the same page, particularly around core medicine concepts and basic science concepts, since many of our students have not come in with a straightforward pre-med background. So often there's some calibration that needs to go on there. A number of students this year have come in from industry and haven't been in school and might need some freshening up. So that course, calling it a boot camp is probably not accurate, but it aims to serve that function to get the class on the same page. I am giving the signal that my time is up with you. I've appreciated and enjoyed speaking with you and sharing the curriculum. I'm certainly happy to answer questions that you might have offline, or you can send them to admissions, and I'm sure they'll forward them on to me. I know I'm really excited about the curriculum. We are moving in a really exciting and terrific direction, and I really hope that you all are a part of it. So thank you so much.